And this has been a hot topic really for a couple of weeks now. The 49ers with Brandon Aiyuk, and I'm just going to throw this out here. Brandon Aiyuk will be traded. Let's start off with Sterling, and we'll go around the horn. Sterling, Brandon Aiyuk's going to be traded.
Do you have an even larger sell sign? Because I don't understand why this is even a conversation in regards to it being a possibility. I get it, fifth year option, contract coming up. I'm seeing Chiefs fans say, yes, we're going to trade for Brandon Ayuk. It makes sense for both teams. I'm sorry. No, it does not make sense for San Francisco to trade, or Brandon Ayuk, excuse me, off what is his best year. He's an ascending receiver. And look, I think it's more likely. Like, there's a reason Deebo Samuel signed a 3-year contract, not a 5-year contract. I'm not saying it was foresight, but I do think that what Deebo Samuel does, albeit it's very hard to replace, I do think that contract gives them an out to keep Brandon Aiyuk over Deebo Samuel. And if Brandon Aiyuk continues to ascend, and Deebo Samuel, albeit was hurt last year, continues to kind of do this, I think in another year, we're going to see Brandon Aiyuk get the big contract extension, and Deebo Samuel's going to be gone, or at least on a smaller deal. I love Deebo to death. But Brandon Aiyuk, at this moment, right now, while they do very different things, Brandon Aiyuk is the better pure receiver. And with what Brock Purdy did last year, if he is indeed the quarterback, and if even, let's say it's Trey Lance. Trey Lance and Aiyuk's chemistry was unlike any other in training camp, which was the hot topic we all heard about, right? If Trey Lance is your guy, you're not going to trade his number one receiver, the receiver he has most chemistry with. You're not going to do that. Like that. I don't know why this is really a conversation in regards to, like, it doesn't make sense for San Francisco. And I know other teams might want him. That's a good thing. Doesn't mean they're going to trade him at all. It doesn't make any sense to me. So it's a hard sell.
Yep. CG.
You're muted.
Oh, well, I'm going to sell because why would you want to get rid of your other best pure wide receiver? Debo is more like an all-around gadget player. He gets hurt at some point. So I think there's going to be, at some point, maybe down the road, you might be surprised. Maybe Debo's going to be gone, and then you want to give Aiyuk the actual contract. I mean, he's a good route runner. He's gotten better. He was ascending. I just don't believe the trade talks. I see a lot of teams putting the rumors, and I'm just thinking it's bogus, man. Like bogus. Like I'm just gonna say it's not for sale, man. We're just gonna sell it away. Just get rid of the issue, man. The rumors, it needs to go. It needs to go. But it's pretty much like I'm just selling it because I don't buy into this crap. I mean, if you get what I'm saying, like they're not going to get rid of him. They value him so much. Maybe he just wants more targets. Maybe he wants to be the number one guy.
What about you, Johnny?
I'm a Sterling. Can you put a giant? I mean, let's just make the entire screen sell. I mean, I can't say sell hard enough. And look, if I'm the Chiefs, I would love if I could trade for Brandon Aiyuk. But San Francisco ain't doing it. Okay, we have to remember that Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk do not play the same position. Okay, they are wide receivers, but they do not play the same position. That Brandon Aiyuk is your X receiver, he's your split end. That Deebo Samuel is your flanker. They are different receivers. Think 1998, Terrell Owens and Jerry Rice. Okay, they were not the same position. And Brandon Aiyuk is your guy that he is going to be away from the tight end. He's going to be facing more. He's on the line. He has to be on the line. That's a big thing because now he can be pressed. So he's your guy to beat man coverage. He's your guy to go up against one-on-ones that you can rely on. I look back to the Miami game. Okay, Miami game, we ran the same passing play 3 times. It was you run a little spot concept with a swing pass added in with Juszczyk going into the flat on one side. It's 4 receivers on one side, and you have Brandon Aiyuk on a quick slant on the backside. When Brock Purdy saw straight man coverage, it was Brandon Aiyuk on the slant. Okay, and we ran that play probably 16, 17 times with Brock Purdy, and every time it was straight man coverage and there was no defensive end or hook dropping onto that side. Brock Purdy was going to Brandon Aiyuk because he was winning on that slant every time. I see man coverage, I'm going to Brandon Aiyuk. He's your man coverage guy. Debo Samuel is not your man coverage beater. He's going to be working the concepts against zone coverage with the tight end. He's going to be working things with George Kittle there, and he's also going to be in that wide back role that you can use to create mismatches in the box. They do not play the same position at all. And Brandon Aiyuk is also your best blocking receiver. So when we say, he's your guy that if you need somebody that can beat man coverage, that will bust another team out of man coverage, that's Brandon Aiyuk. If you need a guy that can block as better than any other receiver on the field, that is Brandon Aiyuk. He was on Brad Graham's show, and he said it, no block, no rock. Okay. That he had some of the best blocks that I have ever seen from a receiver last year. So, the value that he brings to this team, I don't see it. Now, is he going to be a big numbers guy? That's not our offense. It just isn't. It's we pass to set up the run, and at most we're going to be a 50-50 team. So I don't see it. The sticking point, I think, might be between Aiyuk and the team on the contract. That's the only place I see it, but that's why you pick up his 5th-year option. So you have him for this year and you have him for next year. I think Brandon Ayuk's going to want to get a contract like Debo Samuel. Will the 49ers pay him that with the production they're getting? But he's also going to look at them and say, well, I'm only getting the production I got because I'm on a run first team. That's the only place I see a sticking point. I think the two sides will find a way to make it work. But I do not see him getting traded, not this season. The only way that happens is if that contract situation goes very far south. But even then, I think they let him walk because you're going to get a compensatory pick back from him if he walks anyways. So, and I don't think he's going to be a guy that garners a first-round pick back. Nobody's going to give a first-round pick and then a big contract for Brandon Aiyuk. I love the guy, but I just don't see a team making that kind of a trade. But I'm going to sell this as hard as I can. Like, there is no way Brandon Aiyuk gets traded.
All right. Now it's my turn, and I'm going to. So this is one of those. I almost need to use the back and forth one here, but I am going to say in terms of Brandon Aiyuk being traded, I'm going to buy this one. I'm going to go a little bit different though, because Brandon Aiyuk's not going to be with the 49ers much longer. The 49ers, John Lynch talked about using the 5th-year option on Brandon Aiyuk, and I could totally see the 49ers doing that. The interesting piece here is the 5th-year option doesn't have to get picked up until after the draft. So if they don't utilize it prior to the draft, I think there's a possibility that he is on the block and he's going to get moved during this draft. If they place the 5th-year option on him, he will get traded in 2024. He is going to be the second coming of DeForest Buckner. I agree with what you guys are saying, that as far as the talent of Brandon Aiyuk is there. And the 49ers could afford to pay Brandon Aiyuk and Debo Samuel for a couple of years together. I know Samuel's contract is coming up, going to explode next year, but the way that the 49ers typically do these kind of deals is they build in plenty of room for themselves to be able to redo those deals and push money out and keep it. Think of a little bit of kind of like what they've done with Eric Armstead, and all their big money guys are similar in the way what they do with them in terms of they kind of bloat the contracts up with salary, smaller bonuses, so that they can then slide money into bonus. And those guys are actually making just as much money as they would. Their cap hits are low, but they're making a ton of money. And I think that they could do it. I just foresee the 49ers looking at this and saying, you know what, long term, we're not going to pay two wide receivers top wide receiver money, which is, I think, what it would require them to do. And so I think Brandon Aiyuk becomes the odd man out because although he's a terrific wide receiver, he doesn't do all the different things that you get out of a guy like Debo Samuel. Debo Samuel in 2021 was part of the reason he was so good, was he was getting the ball down the field a little bit more. Last year, they used him more as a gadget guy. I think that really hurt his numbers a little bit. So in terms of Brandon Aiyuk getting traded, again, this is kind of one of those buy or sell kind of things like you guys. I'm selling that he's getting traded now, but I'm buying that he's going to eventually be traded by the 49ers. And I think he gets through 2023 because, like I said early on in the show, I think the 49ers are all in for now. But beyond this season, I think things get a little interesting, especially over – and I know we're talking about Brandon Aiyuk, but pay attention to what happens over there at left tackle too, because there's a possibility that he might not be here for long haul. Trent Williams was a guy who said at the end of the year, if you remember, there were some questions as he was going to be coming back. He can retire next year and save the 49ers a boatload of money, because it would be if they do that and he retires, they wouldn't retire him until after his paperwork wouldn't go in until after June 6th. So they'd be able to free up almost $20 million in cap space with a Trent Williams retire. It's actually about $13 million. So
So Jack, can I ask you, do you see a wide receiver in this draft that could replace Brandon Aiyuk?
Do I see a wide receiver? There was man. See, I don't have my draft notes in front of me. I did have.
Sorry, I dropped it on you. I know.
I didn't. That's all right. I should know, but there's a couple of different names that I've seen kind of getting floated around the 49ers of guys that they've talked to. So unfortunately, I don't have the name right at my fingertips like I should. I'm unprepared.
No, it's all good, because
there's that kid from Ole Miss, that Jonathan Meagle guy. Like, I heard he's a good blocker. He's got the speed. He's got the playmaking ability. That's another guy I've heard about, but I don't think he's the typical replacement for Aiyuk right away.
So I just haven't seen anybody that I think is going to be at Ayuk's level. I think there's a handful of solid receivers in this draft, but I don't see anybody that's a top tier receiver. I don't see anybody that I would feel comfortable with at that X position where you want your number one receiver. So that's just, I wonder with that is, are they waiting to pick up that 5th year option to, as they do their homework on these guys and figure out, is there a possibility for a red shirt replacement?
Yeah, I think there is. I think there's a few guys out there that they could do that with. When I was looking at the draft, and I was had a conversation yesterday with everybody's favorite new YouTube sensation, Larry Kruger. I had a talk with him yesterday over on his channel, and he talked about a guy that I think he just has like a Rolodex in his head as he's talking with all these different guys in the draft and everything. But as I was telling him, I think receiver is a spot that you can see the 49ers go after. I think people are kind of sleeping on that right now because they have 5 guys that are pretty well locked in, but you still have, you're not sure what you're going to have. Juwan Jennings, this is his last year in San Francisco. Juwan Jennings, he's going to price himself out after this year because he's no longer under the 49ers control. Ray McLeod, I think, is a guy who probably doesn't come back. So I think the 49ers are going to draft a guy. Maybe they're able to get a guy that's a solid enough where they can replace Brandon Aiyuk. So that's the only reason why I think after 2023 he's gone, but I could be wrong.